Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
Hi, Rob Browne here with you on this Saturday morning. Sidelines College Roundtable. We are broadcasting live. We are on location at the Cherry Farm in Lee Hall. And you can see in the background that sign, if you're watching on our YouTube channel, my goal in life is to be the kind of person my dog thinks I am. Is that not a classic line? But we'll try to make this show a couple of hours of action-packed, nonstop information. Got Doug Dean from Birmingham checking in. Frank Duffy from God only knows where. Eddie Murphy will check in talking about the edmurphyclassic.com coming up August 4th and 5th at Rhodes College. A lot of the top runners, loads of Olympians, gold medalists will be there at Rhodes College in Memphis August 4th and 5th. It could be the second largest track and field event in America this year. That is how big this event could be. A lot of planning going on. We'll be at the press conference Thursday night. It's going to be really a neat story. But we will be covering a lot. We're here 6 days a week, 25 shows a month. We do 50 hours a month of content, at least. I want to thank all of our listeners, all of our sponsors as we continue to grow. Get ready for another football season. This will be season number 5. So it's going to be a lot of fun to watch what happens. And again, you know, I know it is so easy to get caught up in all the negative narrative and whatever. It's just not what we're all about. We're going to look for positive stories. So if you like to bitch and moan and whine, go find you something else to listen to. That's not our style. Hey, Hewlett and Dunn Boot and Clothing Company on the historic square in Collierville, Tennessee. I was out there last week. Charles Hall and his wife, Laura, they're the owners. Incredible inventory. New brands they're bringing in for the fall collection. Pendleton, Schaefer Outdoors, Danner, Vask, Light Boots, Higher Boots. Higher Boots. That's who invented the cowboy boot. And as always, you know, they're the second largest Filson dealer in the Southeast. They've got Devil Dog jeans, Old South clothing, Stetson. They've got the Rock Mount shirts worn famously by Ronald Reagan, Bob Dylan, Elvis Presley, you name it. They're great looking shirts. Each one of them is like wearing a painting, an original work of art. As my good friend Dave Schultz Cast down in Lafayette, Louisiana calls it. I didn't know Salvador Dali was making shirts. That's what he called my shirt. But got a lot going on. Doug Dean, Frank Duffy, be on here momentarily with us as we get cranking up here on the round table. And I think that what we've got to learn is college football. There's a lot going on in terms of changes. And I want to we had Franz Beard on yesterday talking about it. And you go back and you look at what has happened in the world of college football. And I think people need to, take inventory of where we are and where we are headed. We're going through some changes right now, but we've been through a lot worse before. Everyone always thinks that what we're going through now, whether you individually or as a country, is the worst it's ever been. As I give you my brief monologue before we get going, but this is not, NIL. I'm hearing more and more players go, look, moving for a couple $100,000, it's not worth it. It's like a job that if you stick it out where you are for another 3 or 4 years, you're going to be a partner in the firm. But if you move to this other firm right now, you're going to get $100,000 upfront bonus or something. But stick it out. I mean, talk to adults in the business world. And don't give me this narrative that, well, these kids are seeing all these coaches make all this money. I don't give a damn. When you're 18 years old, you aren't in charge like the adults are. You don't, yeah. But you talk to that coach that might be making $8 million, or you talk to the coach that might be making $10 million. Ask him what he made when he first started. Okay. Frank Duffy's on here with us right now, wandering around, not sure where he is. It looks like Brother Theodore or Admiral Stockdale in that debate with when Ross Perot and him were out there, and he wandered around the set. Who am I? Where am I? What is this? Is this Admiral Stockdale? Is that you, Frank? Is that you out there, counselor? But I'm telling you, people think about how the work, where you work goes, and I'm telling you, it'll calm you down. But we cannot worry about, an 18-year-old kid. When you're 18 years old, you're not a 45 or 50-year-old adult. You don't make the calls. You first start out, you pick the business, selling odor readers at the bowling alley. I don't give a damn what it is. If you're selling bonds, if you work at a bank, you're not going to go in there and tell the president of that bank that it's not fair that he's making more money than you are. You're 22, right out of college, or whatever it is. So we're going to figure this stuff out. Frank, I know last week you took the Greyhound, you and the missus went down to Cancun. Were you and Rhonda? That's a hell of a trip, man. Took you a week to get there. You had a day there and took you 10 days to get back. No, I know last weekend you were on a plane to Cancun.
Yeah. We did.
I'm ready for some college football.
Me too. Well, we went down to Cancun. That was 2 Saturdays ago, and we came back, and then I had to go bring my daughter to LSU. The start of her senior year. Yay, off the payroll. Coming up this year. So
already a senior. I just remember when she was enrolling.
I know, it's crazy.
God bless.
So I drove her down to Louisiana, got her back in the apartment, ready to roll for this year. I told her, I said, Dad's going to be coming down quite a bit this year, so get that guest ready. I'm excited, Rob. I can't wait. I see Doug just joined. I mean, if you can't be excited and ready at this time of year with camps getting ready to, crank up, and you've got, LSU's having our big Bayou Splash recruiting weekend this weekend. I just saw that Bryce Underwood, the #1 ranked recruit in 2025 in America, big stud quarterback, 5 stars there. I hope we feed him as much etouffee and jambalaya as the young man would like to eat. And it's just a great time. Rob, we joked about this, I guess, during the pandemic year when we were down on 30A down in Destin hanging out. And remember, we did the show that Friday when the Big Ten had just come out and said they wasn't going to play football. And I was doing the show at the beach in Destin. And we were talking about Phil Steele, and the Athlon and all the books. I mean, this is the time of year when you're a college football fan, you love it. Hope springs eternal. It's like spring training in baseball. Everybody's got a shot. So it's just a great time, man. I love this time of year.
Well, it is. Doug Dean's with us right now down in Birmingham, and all of y'all. And I was watching Marty and McGee this morning, and they're both out. It's a tough time of the year. But Marty Smith, I talked to him. He's going to come on the show here soon. And I told him, I said, I like what y'all do. And I said, we want to donate a mount from the Cherry Farm, a duck. They need a duck or a deer on there. And I said, but, what I'm seeing a lot of, guys, is these student athletes, the ones I talk to at media days, I'm hearing a new theme. For me, it's not about the NIL. It's about the NFL and sticking it out. As we all know, when you first start out, let's say you're working for a law firm or an accounting firm, to make partner, you can't leave just to take a quick fix at another firm. You got to stick it out. And Doug, that as well, and patience. And it's Big Cat Weekend. Let's talk about the big cats that are walking around downtown Auburn.
Yeah. Good morning. Hey, Duff. I don't know if you can see it, but I'm rocking a new brand for you, Duffy's Garage. and
I love it.
that's
Where
my
did you get
mechanic.
that?
But that's
I
going to
love
be
it.
when Rob finally gets it, which I've recommended many times, and brings you in permanently as a co-host. Then they'll rebrand the show as Duffy's Garage.
Oh, hey, y'all both are always. Anytime I'm always like, hey, come on. I
No,
mean,
I'm kidding.
and I know
Hey,
y'all got busy schedules, but I love
no,
Duffy's Garage, man. I
you're
like that
doing
name.
everything right, Rob, and on the show, and have tremendous guests on. I've got a few I'll keep under wraps that I'd love to send your way. One of which has a size 22 neck that you saw in at
Yeah,
SEC Media Days.
I talked to
Zakia
him.
would love to come on. If he doesn't enjoy himself too much on a Friday night, I'd love to have him come in the 9 a.m. hour some Saturday morning as the fun is approaching. But I was thinking, with the madness of recruiting, which is exponentially intensified with the advent of large money. Well, really, we always had large money to get recruits, right? But it's just, as Lane Kiffin likes to say, and I was talking the same way, so I feel validated that Lane Kiffin is using the same language. Now that cheating is legalized and it's out in the open, it's wild, wild, wild. But I was thinking back, Rob, to the 2009 and the creativity of Curtis Looper and Trooper Taylor in creating this, what I consider cheesy as hell and goofy, but by God, it works. The Big Cat Weekend. And what it dawned on me, remember when that Tiger Prowl, that stupid RV, was roaming around visiting high schools, and it was beautifully, it was right up there with Bingle One, Duffy. It was beautifully decked out.
Hey,
And
just different colors on the stripes. That's all.
there you go. Yeah. And boy, back then, oh, this cannot stand. This is going to destroy college football. So a coach we all revere as the GOAT may have had something to do with saying that this is just not what college football is all about. We got to shut down this Tiger Prowl RV. And now, now you've got 34 plus, I believe. I'm probably low on that number. Not 3 stars, Robin and Duff, but just star-studded kids, headlined by current Alabama commit Perry Thompson, who the smart money believes possibly today is going to flip from the Crimson Tide, a 5-star wide receiver out of Foley, the home of the great Julio Jones. I don't know what's going on with Hugh Freeze and this staff, not to mention the On to Victory Collective. But I think that there is, as Cole Kublik said on air this week, he is, and he ought to know, he's connected to Auburn, Letterman, and Powers. He's seeing more alignment. I love that word. And Duff talked about it at LSU. More alignment with all the parties, the powers that be, the collective. And the evidence of that, early evidence, is the flip of Georgia 5-star linebacker DeMarcus Riddick.
Yeah.
What was it, Wednesday?
I saw that.
And you know, when your rivals who are on top of the world start to at least have a little bit of raised eyebrow on message boards, then you're doing something right. Correct, Duffy?
I don't think there's any doubt.
That's right. And by the way, your Boston accent doesn't sound so bad when you're starting to flip them. And like right now, Kelly and the state of Louisiana locked up, and we're still in play on the ice between us and Billy Napier, the big kid out of Acadiana that we have to try and get. But we're probably going to get the 9th kid. So you're exactly right. They start having success, like a new coach in a new area, which Harsin didn't do for y'all, that Kelly's actually doing for us because he knows the importance of recruiting. But the fact that you guys flipped that big guy from Kirby, it's their attention, and the negative recruiting loses its backbone. Let's put it that way. When you start getting those flips to commit, and you start, getting back in the arena of recruiting. And let me tell you right now, that's Alabama and that's Georgia. and with other programs like us coming in and starting to really put inroads in, that is going to get their attention. You can't if you get in the Jimmies and Joes to make the X's and O's work, you're going to get the attention of the guys that are the elites. And Auburn flipping that kid on Wednesday was a big deal. When I saw that, I was like, that was impressive to get him from Kirby.
You just don't, and it's been too long since Auburn has signed hadn't signed anybody yet. I guess we need to tap the brakes. That you go out and look bad playing games. The psychology of all this you can end up becoming a victim of a flip yourself if you don't take care of business. But the start is to sell the vision, sell the program, and I have no illusions. I suspect that the almighty dollar was not a small factor in the recent surge in recruiting, but also don't want to be delusional that, Alabama and Georgia are on top of the world. LSU's nipping at their heels in terms of talent acquisition. There's a fancy word that recruitniks have started to use. But next comes the proverbial proof of concept. Hugh Freeze knows that he's got to get out there, and it's not so much that you win 9 or 10 games. That would be awesome in terms of the trajectory, but it's how do you look? Can smart football people and recruits see that what is being built, even in a loss, does it look competent? It did not look competent under our prior regime.
Yeah. Let's do this. We're going to take a quick break. Yeah. We're going to take a quick break and come back. And Frank might want to reboot your signal. You're breaking in and out a little bit, but I want to talk about a new kind of recruiter in college football. And it comes from a discussion with a very smart, longtime observer of what has always happened and what is happening at some powerful programs right now after this quick break. All right, Frank Duffy be right back with us. But and here's the thing I want to throw this in, and Frank is back with us. And guys, I had this discussion yesterday, and it was with a fan of a very powerful program. He said, "Look, Auburn getting that commitment from DeMarcus Riddick, you have to think about. A program, a lot of these recruiters got lazy during the virus. Okay. They call them COVID or, China virus recruiters. That's what they did. They started texting all the time. And this person was telling me about conversations. And here's what goes on. It's you can't just play video games with these kids all night online. You can't just text them. You have got to go see them. Okay. You've got to get to know mom. You got to get to know dad. You got to get to know the grandmother. You got that family unit, okay? And if you're not going out on the road and building those relationships, you're going to lose out. Here's something about Hugh Freeze. He's from Independence, Coldwater, Mississippi, right near Senatobia, Tate County. That is the 5-star city. And everybody up here told me, I talked to him when Auburn was looking at Freeze. And they said, Browne, Hugh Freeze is going to be the perfect fit at Auburn. He's going to be that guy that wants to go to Toomer's Corner and throw toilet paper, yell War Eagle. He's going to want to go to those dang alumni functions. He's going to see somebody out on the street at a store, and he'll engage with you. He loves it. And he's going to get a recruiting staff together that will be relentless. And so when you think about a lot of the recruiters, Kirby Smart, they've got everybody in the state of Georgia fully engaged. And how many times have we said it, guys, Frank and Doug, on this show? The last 3 years, Auburn's two biggest rivals, and I have a ton of respect for Georgia and Alabama. We both do. We all do.
Of course.
Okay, but they've had a free reign, a hall pass to get whoever they wanted without a fight. And now what you are seeing at Auburn is what you've been seeing in Alabama and Georgia. And so, yeah, Alabama will probably ramp it up a little bit, but Nick Saban, what he's got to be careful of is to not lose contact, that connection with what's going on. Because, look, Nick Saban's 71. That's not old. But you've got to be in touch with these recruits. You can't just video them and text them and stream, Zoom them and whatever. You've got to go to their house. Do it like Coach Bryant, like Coach Dye, like Vince Dooley. You got to go do it with them. And you may not talk about football. When you're around the family, 95% of that conversation, like most business meetings that I have, are not about business. They're just about life. And that's why Hugh Freeze and Cadillac, and let me tell you, Hugh Freeze has some people internally that have been with him everywhere he's been to get stuff done. Remember the wolf in Pulp Fiction? The wolf now works for Auburn. He does. Hey, we fixed things. You guys get at it. Forget about it.
Hey, I don't know what y'all's version is, but down here,
much better signal. Thank you.
Hey, what? Hey, I don't know what y'all call it in Auburn, but we call it down here in recruiting. You better go taste their mama's gumbo. You better be in that kitchen.
Yep.
You better get down there and taste that gumbo. And even if she's made store-bought roux, you better say you liked it.
Yeah, let me put a finer point on what you're saying, Robin. We owe it. I know we got two Auburn and one LSU guy on here. We need to talk about the two reigning champions, Alabama and Georgia, which I intend to do in a minute, with a compliment to what one of the underrated things Coach Saban has done when he's had so much success. But you just got to believe that there's about 15, I don't know, it might get to as high as 20 programs who have fan bases and donors who care enough about winning big in football, who understand, as former Auburn University president Jay Gouge called it, may not have been original, that the football program especially, but athletics is the front porch of your university in the South, and it needs to look shiny and welcoming. It needs to look good. And you get people on the front porch, then they enter in. Hopefully you've got a fine institution of higher learning and an LSU or Alabama or Auburn or Tennessee experience for students that launches them in life. But it's hard in the South, it's hard to have the complete experience unless you're doing some things well in athletics, again, especially football. I think basketball and baseball are gaining on that. But I don't know. It's just it's an exciting time of year in which, and I've got a provocative question, Duff, that I put to Rob. We'll tackle shortly, and I think you're going to like my answer when we get to it, Duff. But right now, Tulane is sitting down there in NOLA, believing that they can make some noise. Michael Pratt will be back, and why not? I'm not saying they're going to go undefeated and face whomever in the national title game, but I sure as hell wouldn't fault Tulane for believing that when they knock off USC in the bowl game.
Yeah. Frank, I want to ask you about Tulane. I have a ton of respect for that school. I mean, if you get an MBA or a Master's of Health Administration, like my friend Lloyd Monger, Uncle Charlie that you talked with the other day, that says a lot about you. And every now and then Tulane will pop up with a season like they did last year and win the Cotton Bowl. Their alumni have a lot of money. What does it take to get them excited about spending that money on Tulane's football program? Because, the Garden District, uptown New Orleans, that's a pretty cool place.
It is. And, Tulane has a special history. They really do. I mean, when I was a ball boy back in the 70s, Steve Foley, Mark Oliveri, Charlie Hall, you go back to Eddie Price, the days of 1940 when Tulane was in the SEC. I mean, they were an SEC school, right? So, but I really haven't, honestly, in all my years of being a LSU fan, but also being a Tulane fan. I was one of those unique people that was a fan of both. But their excitement right now is unrivaled. They just got picked to be their conference champion at their media days. So now is a great time. If Tulane's going to get the backing that they need, and I was shocked. Look, I attended 3 games when I was down in New Orleans. In fact, I even left the LSU Tennessee debacle and made it in time for the Tulane kickoff down in New Orleans. I left Baton Rouge, went to the Tulane game that day. And watch Gus Malzahn, Central Florida. So I think now is a great time for them to put their money where their mouth is, and they do have a lot of money. But Ullman is a really cool stadium. They've been in it a little over a decade, roughly. Sadly, it's not always full. So they have to get grassroots support, and then the money follows. But they're fighting an uphill battle. When LSU can lock up all 10 of the top 10 recruits in the state just by saying, "Come on up to the flagship, boys." They're going to always have that chip on their shoulder, and it's always going to be an uphill battle in the state of Louisiana for Tulane. It just always will.
Yeah, but Michael Pratt, he's from what? Deerfield Beach or Fort Lauderdale, something like that, or maybe Tampa. So they got
great quarterback.
Doug, yeah, he is. And Doug, you got a great list that you texted me this morning. Call your shot. Let's get into that, because those are some provocative questions about the upcoming college football season that we need to tackle. Right now.
Yeah, and I do want to go ahead and quickly and compliment Coach Saban, and I don't mean to exclude Kirby Smart. He's done some of this as well. You don't win back-to-back championships unless you are. But while we're, as fans and analysts, so obsessed with the talent, the portal transfer talent, how that's changing the game, how recruiting is being changed by NIL. Meanwhile, this past week, of all things, politics makes strange bedfellows. Coach Senator Tuberville and Manchin both partnered to introduce legislation that theoretically would bring sanity to NIL and all of this. So there's a lot in the strategic landscape, but coaching still matters. And here's what I think's way up. Sure, Coach Saban goes out. He's always gone out and had top 2 or 3 talent seemingly every year. But a lot of these kids that come in, if you talk to coaches and people close to programs, you can have a 5-star that comes in your program. Much of the time, not always, he might not be a team guy. He might have a lot of ego, and that's not going to go very well when you're trying to build a program. And Coach Saban seems to have the processes and systems that a kid comes in, he gets humbled a little bit, and most of them learn to be a team player, and they become a grown man. And I think the programs, just because you go out and sign a top 5 class, does not mean that you will translate it into greatness. So keep an eye on the maybe 20 or 30% value of coaching and making a big difference. I think Brian Kelly gets that. I believe Hugh Freeze gets that. Kirby, Saban, I could name a few others. But, coaching is going to matter. Here's the provocateur's question of the day, and it's aimed at breathing some damn life into the scene right now, when all people are assuming, with good reason, is that this is either Alabama or Georgia to win it all this year. That may end up being the case, but my question is, if you exclude Georgia or Alabama, who would be your surprise team that will have a monster season and make it to the playoffs and let's just say make the national championship game, the final game? We don't have to get into who actually wins it. Think about it for a minute. Who is your surprise team? I'll warm it up. it's kind of weird to call them a surprise because it's no surprise that they're loaded with talent. But I would have to look at LSU because there they are lurking a little off the radar. People wonder, can Brian Kelly in his second year, what will it look like? Everybody knows that he had a really bad game against Tennessee, but he had an unbelievable gutty call on a 2-point conversion. You get one play to beat the GOAT, you got to cash in.
You got to go for the throat.
That was the unforgivable sin in the 2021 Iron Bowl by Brian Harsin. We've got a gimpy quarterback, and you got a chance on one 2-point conversion to win it, and he had the play, and he didn't have the guts to call it. So the reason I like LSU as a potential surprise is it's the 2010 Auburn formula. Auburn was not top to bottom the best roster in football, but they had the single best offensive player in Cam Newton and the single best defensive player in Nick Fairley, and they rode that with some role players. And you've got, as you know, Jaden Daniels, 2,900 yards passing, but I think bigger than that is his 885 yards rushing last year. And so if you will if you will stipulate that Jaden Daniels stays upright and does not go down all season, then I think the formula for LSU, Duff, you're probably not going to like this. You lose a close competitive game in Tuscaloosa. Guess what that gets you? You don't have to go to Atlanta and play Georgia. And what that means is LSU is the third or fourth team selected with only one loss to the SEC West champion and, blue blood program, putting it mildly, Alabama. And you back into the playoff, and you would be in great position if I'm right about that.
We call that the Alabama-Oklahoma State scenario, backdoor scenario.
Yeah.
Which we
November 18th, November 17th of 2011. I remember that night well.
Yes, that is exactly that scenario. Look, I'll tell you, I'm not ready to concede the West to Alabama by any means. When we can, every year my buddies and I go to Ruth's Chris for a kickoff luncheon. Okay, in fact, we're doing it this Wednesday, and I'll never forget. Before 2019, we thought, man, we might be 9-3 at best. No, we didn't see this one coming. Then last year, we were hoping just to kind of we didn't expect to go to Atlanta. But I will tell you this year, our expectations are extremely high. Most people don't realize Jaden Daniels put on 15 pounds of muscle in this offseason. So that skinny leg quarterback that got 800 yards of rushing, I'm hoping the kid gets over 1,000 because he's going to be a little bit harder to bring down. But I'm telling you, LSU is going into this season with a lot of confidence. I can't remember a more talented from top to bottom LSU roster. So I'm not ready to give it to Alabama. And I'll tell you, Doug, as you well are aware, being a history of our series with Alabama, we actually have greater results in Tuscaloosa than we do in Baton Rouge.
You're right.
So I think the big thing is we've got to get off to a good start against Florida State. Got to avenge that knucklehead ending last year. We've got a big game with you guys in Baton Rouge. I think that's going to be a pivotal crossroads game for both teams, just like it was last year. I mean, think about when you and I were sitting together in Jordan Hare. What a crossroads! That wasn't even a crossroads game. That was a crossroads halftime. So I think LSU's got a really good shot. Look, to me, Florida is going to be the big unknown this year.
Yeah.
Billy Napier, I think he's already on the hot seat. Billy Napier. He's on the hot seat, but they also have talent. So if anybody's going to push, again, I know everybody's talking about Tennessee. I think losing Hendon Hooker is a blow to them. I think he was a special player. And look, it's always tougher to come back that second year after you surprise in the first year. But I think, just like I said last year on these Saturdays, Florida and LSU were the interesting ones last year, and I think they're also going to be the interesting ones this year.
We're going to take a break. Yeah,
Okay.
we're going to take a break. I want to get into this, Doug, when we come back, because when you look, Doug and Frank, at Florida, Dan Mullen did not get fired because things were going well. Billy Napier is very methodical, but I asked him a question at media days. What that you've learned from Dabo and what that you've learned from Nick still applied every day in your coaching, and what did you learn from them that you've had to throw out the window and change because it's obsolete? Okay. And again, the answers were interesting, but he's a very smart guy. And he's like, yeah, you got to change a lot. Like Freeze said, I look around, there's a lot of guys that used to work for me. I better be ahead of the game. Be right back. Frank Duffy, Doug Dean, and Sidelines, Saturday Roundtable after this.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
Hey guys, this is something interesting, and Doug and Frank, there's pivotal moments, and again, you think about LSU, and I was talking to a lot of smart football people the last few days, off the air and on the air, and the question was, you better watch out. And again, it's not because you're wearing that LSU hat, but he goes, the program you better keep your damn eyes on is LSU. He goes, because Brian Kelly won more games in his career at Notre Dame than any coach in Notre Dame history. And he did it with absolutely zero playmakers. So think about that. That's what you got to watch out for. He's about 4 games behind Nick Saban in the all-time win totals. And we're going to cover a lot because I'll tell you, of all the guys on on SEC Network, the 2 that I think are the tip of the spear are Roman Harper and Takeo Spikes. And I talked to Roman, and both of them, they get it. And we're going to have Roman on the show maybe this week. But watch out, and Frank and Doug pick up on that, because Brian Kelly did it with zero playmakers, and now he's got playmakers. That's what is keeping people up at night.
And the thing that I love about it, I'm incredibly impressed and delightfully surprised at how good of a recruiter he is. I mean, I thought he would be a really good X's and O's coach. I thought he had that from being a lifer, right? I mean, from coming through the smaller divisions on up to Notre Dame. But I'm telling you, as a recruiter, he's really, really good, and he's put together a great staff. And look, let's face it, when you don't have the academic requirements that you've got at a Notre Dame, and I'll tip my cap, even though I've got my wonderful journalism degree from LSU, and I got me a nice house around me to prove that it didn't disturb me too bad. I'm not stupid to know that the shackles for his recruiting have been taken off, and I'm just pleasantly surprised by that. But you got to give it to him on the sideline. And let me tell you, I don't think we had that in our last 2 coaches. They could recruit, and they were characters, but I think Brian Kelly runs rings around him on the sideline. He is a tactician on the sideline and has the stones to go for it against Alabama at home. He knows the room, because he knew in that game, like every one of us sensed. I mean, we all had our 2 fingers up when we scored in overtime to come within one. We didn't want to give Bryce another shot at that. So I think he's been, incredibly well received. I couldn't have been happier with the first 18 months of the Brian Kelly administration. And, I think great things are ahead for LSU. And like I told you, Rob and Doug on a show when Brian Kelly was first hired, I'm going to go down and I'm going to stand by this. He will be the first multiple national championship winning coach at LSU before his next decade is done.
I agree with that.
You got the easy part out of the way on that, Duffy, talking about it. No, Rob had the great Eddie Robinson III, Coach Robinson.
That was cool. God,
grandson
cool.
On earlier in the week. And one of the points I made to Eddie, and he didn't disagree, it was kind of Captain Obvious, is the question, which has kind of been proven. Coach Saban, his I guess it was a shared title at LSU. And then, if Les Miles can win at LSU, I think you and I could, Duffy. And that's nothing against Coach Miles, but if you were limited as LSU's head coach to signing a class exclusively from the state of Louisiana, I think you could be top 5 every year. You agree with that?
Absolutely. Pound for pound is probably one of the best states in the country for recruiting. And you're right. If you told me you can only have one state, it's like a field bet in Vegas. You get to keep all your kids in your state or get others from others, but you can't have all the ones in Louisiana. I take all the ones in Louisiana.
Now, listen, before Rob catches hell from his Ole Miss and Mississippi State and Tennessee and other fans, and Mildred there in the studio is already getting pissed off that we hadn't talked about the dream. The dream.
Hey, Doug.
I got to get y'all back to weighing in on. Do you see it doesn't have to be SEC. Do you see a surprise team lurking out there which you have some years that could just explode onto the scene and contend and make the playoff?
I think Florida. I'm telling you, Florida's got talent.
Wow.
I think Napier's back is against the wall. And look, Florida had a good start last year. Don't forget that game against Utah. When I told Buddy, I said, Buddy, my sleeper of the first week of the season is I love Florida against Utah. And you saw what they did. And look, Anthony Richardson was a lightning rod, right? I mean, he had all this incredible upside potential. But as you saw in the game against Florida State, he'd make these boneheaded plays. It was kind of like, holy mackerel, you got all this talent, but you're making these dumb mistakes. So I think Billy Napier, I think what he's got to do in this second year is he's got to harness this talent and play with more consistency. If he can do that, now look, he's got a tough game against us later in the year. He's got to get through Georgia and Jacksonville. Obviously, no easy task. But if he can go through Florida's early schedule and get some momentum and some wins, and they can go into Jacksonville with maybe only one loss under their belt, I think Florida's got talent that they can surprise people. They're going to have to beat Tennessee. And look, Tennessee, I think Tennessee is going to be this year's Kentucky. I think Tennessee is going to have a come to Jesus wake up moment that was a magical year last year, and they're going to regress with all the talent that they lost. And I think they're going to realize it's much easier to get back to a level than to sustain a level.
It. Yeah, I will be pulling. I know you, Rob. You're going to have Buddy on shortly.
Oh yeah, he's going to be on in the second hour, so we're going to get into this.
And he might be listening, so I don't want to raise the ire of such a great man and great writer. But I for one, and it's strategic and nothing more than that, I'm pulling for Billy Napier. I want Florida to be competitive. I want Georgia to not have such an easy path every single year, for God's sake.
Yeah.
Because let's be honest, there's some teams that have shown a pulse, like Kentucky. South Carolina might be the team you don't really want to play this year on a given night, especially.
They're scrapped. That finish of theirs, those last two games, they played ball.
But
Hey guys, yeah.
College football, the SEC needs Florida to be what they've been in the past under Spurrier. I'm not so generous that I want them to start reeling off national championships like Spurrier and Urban Meyer did, but Florida, there's no reason, there's no excuse. I'd say the same thing about Tennessee. And when they've had down years, I'd say the same about LSU and to a lesser extent Auburn, because Auburn's in one of the worst zip codes, squeezed between Georgia and Alabama, trying to, sustain talent and build a program. But
y'all are in a two-front war.
Florida,
and that's good on a battlefield.
No reason Florida shouldn't win big. I'm gonna throw one other team out there but we won't have to wait long to know if there's anything to this. I don't think Sarkisian forgot how to run an offense, and he's got Quinn Ewers back, a more experienced Ewers. Can Texas go into Bryant Denny early in the season when Alabama may still be unsettled at QB? Can they go in there and finish the job that they were unable to last year because the edge rusher got juked out of his jockstrap by the great Bryce Young? I don't think they can, but if Texas steals one there, then I'm gonna start having to think about the Longhorns as a potential surprise team this year.
Well, they should.
Well,
they should have won.
They're going to be tough.
They should have beat Alabama last year. They should have beat them. They were the better team that day. They really were.
Yeah.
No,
Frank and Doug here.
Tough, but it is early season.
Well, that we're going to bring on. We're going to bring on in a minute, trying to Chef Roger Watson, my good friend up in Indianapolis, used to live in Memphis, from Manchester over in the UK. Now, he's got some thought. I want to bring him on here since Frank's on here and Doug, both of y'all are food junkies. And, but I'm going to say this. He is an Ole Miss fan. He's got multiple Ole Miss helmets. He cooks for all the Ole Miss players that play for the Indianapolis Colts. And he works for, a hedge fund manager up there, but he's been over. He's the one I told you that worked for Gordon Ramsay for 8 years. He said most people don't last 1 or 2 nights, but they can say, I worked for Gordon Ramsay, and they say, how long? I don't worry about it. I worked for him.
Yeah, when you say when you say 8, you're not referencing years, you're referencing hours.
Yeah, exactly. But and I said, I want you to be on here, talk some New Orleans food with Frank. And he goes, and he said, well, I'm not really, as knowledgeable on the New Orleans food, but I said, Roger, every food, every recipe that you come up. Okay. All right. Gotcha. All right. So I'm going to bring him in here real quick, just for a couple of minutes. And Chef Roger, you were driving somewhere in Southern Indiana, the heart of America. Now I brought you in here because obviously, Manchester United, soccer, food, the greatest chef I've ever seen in my life. But Frank is a New Orleans guy. He's a food junkie. Doug is a junkie for food, lives in Birmingham. They got a really good food scene, but it's getting close to college football season. Okay.
Birmingham,
everybody right now, what am I going to cook? What do I need to do? Give us some new recipes. You gave us that rainbow trout recipe, guys, Wednesday when Boyd was on. That was so damn good. Do it again. We got LSU guys, Auburn guys, got a lot of people listening, but everybody comes together when it's time to eat victuals.
How you doing, guys? Good morning, everybody.
Good morning, Chef.
Good morning.
Morning. Morning, Sidelines.
Yeah. So, Roger, where are you right now?
Right now, I just drove for my coffee. So, after I've had a coffee inside me, I like to get on Sidelines and talk some, talk some sports.
Love
it is. Yeah.
Well, Roger, let me ask you this. How'd you get to be an Ole Miss fan?
That's a strange story. So Ken Crane, a very good friend of mine, is the equipment manager there for over 20 years. I think he's about 25 years now.
Yeah, at least.
His wife is a foodie. She followed me on Instagram. Me and Ken, and then Ken did, and me and Ken started speaking. And at that time, I was a Memphis fan because I just moved to Memphis, and it was around about the time when Ole Miss got beat by Memphis. You remember that game?
Oh yeah,
2015. Ole Miss came to Memphis and got beat.
Yep.
And I was at that game in a Memphis jersey cheering for Memphis. But about a year later, I met Ken, and he said, come down. I'll give you a tour of the facilities and the Southern hospitality that that I've never seen anything like before or since. And me and Ken became good friends. And there's not really
That's
much point
awesome.
in supporting anybody else after that.
Well, hey, Chef, I know you got to know my buddy Emeril Lagasse from New Orleans, and Emeril, who married an Ole Miss cheerleader. It's so funny. He's good friends with one of my best friends, John Pearson. He's a fraternity brother of mine. So anytime LSU goes and plays at Ole Miss, we go into the Grove, and I'll never forget this. Me and John's our children was still young at the time. So I say it was probably like 2007, somewhere around there. But sitting there in the Grove, right there on the corner, Chef Emeril was there doing a tailgate. And when I tell you, he had probably, 4 or 5 of his assistants that had come over from, the restaurant on Julia Street in New Orleans in the warehouse district and had set up shop. And when I tell you the lines were around the block of all of his buddies that know him from New Orleans, he rides with me we ride in Bacchus every year on Sunday night of Mardi Gras. And he was holding court right there on that first corner, right as you're going toward the library. It was and look, it's not easy, as you might know, to run a full kitchen on like just a corner of a street. And I'm telling you, it was incredible what he was doing. He was frying fish. I mean, it was all his sauce. I think he had some alligator sauce pecan going. I mean, it was fabulous. So I love being there in the Grove. Nothing like it, eating y'all's food at Ole Miss games when LSU comes to town. It is a food fest wrapped around a football game.
Give us a recipe.
Yeah, Rob will tell you that I've held court at Ole Miss as well, and probably not on his level, but I had Rob's son assisting me. It was 100 degrees, bugs everywhere, and I was cooking. I had a pretty big crowd there, Rob. You remember that one? I was like,
we cooked 300 duck tenders.
Yeah, I was just cooking duck tenders. I never cooked so many duck tenders in my life. And every time I thought I'd finished, Rob turned around with another big bucket of them.
Hey, Chef.
I was like, I can't wait to get out of this swamp.
Some teal breasts.
Chef.
Some teal breasts. Well, hey, Chef. No,
Yeah.
Doug, I'm just going to tell Chef, I'm coming for the Ole Miss LSU game, and I can chop a mean trinity. So I will find you on that Saturday. If you're holding court, if you're cooking, I'll be the best prep guy you've ever had on a sharp knife and a cutting board.
Chef,
I need to get down there for that game.
Chef Doug Dean in Birmingham, and that's Alabama, not England. I've admired learning through Rob, and I think you've been on the show multiple times, some of the great flavors you put together. And I bet if I can give you an image of where I was a week ago in the King Salmon Dough Lodge, and Duff, that was so named because these guys from Lafayette, Louisiana, fell in love with the Kenai River in Alaska, bought this $3 million lodge. So we were there all week, and the smartest move we made, Chef, was I found a talented up-and-coming chef in Kenai named Todd Ritter, and he came into camp every single night and made a very special dinner. Wow. So we're pulling sockeye salmon out of the river, and none of it was frozen. It was fresh, and my favorite meal the whole week was we call it sockeye salmon on the half shell. So you leave the skin on one side, fillet the other side, and he grills it, skin down, obviously. And he topped that with some beautiful crab meat and asparagus, and just a special meal. But I would love to hear if there's a particular approach you like to take, simple or complicated, with fresh salmon, Chef.
Roger, Roger, hold that thought, because we're going to take a quick commercial break and come back. Everybody listening, get pen and paper handy, okay? Because this is the greatest chef I've ever seen in my life. I'm not kidding you. He can make a hot dog an event. It's like when he cooks a hot dog, it's like having Robert Plant come sing happy birthday to you. Him being from the UK, I have to say that. But anyway, we're going to be right back with Chef Roger Watson driving somewhere in Indiana. Doug Dean, Frank Duffy on Saturday Sidelines. are back. We got Chef Roger Watson driving somewhere in Indiana, probably around Indianapolis, one of the cleanest, most beautiful cities in America. Doug Dean in Birmingham. Frank Duffy. Frank, New Orleans, Jasper, the mountains of North Georgia.
I'm up in North Georgia right now. In fact, that's my stove right there, Chef. Many a good Louisiana meal is made up here in the North Georgia mountains behind enemy lines.
Well, hey, we got to do it. We're going to get Doug back here in just a second. But you know, Frank, the thing, and Roger, that day was October 20th of 2018. It was the Auburn Ole Miss game. I remember I brought all those duck tenders. And remember the big fella, Smokey, whose belly hit the thing of all the duck tenders and knocked them onto the ground. Roger, that was one of the funniest things. And I had 9 feet of venison tenderloin. Roger took that venison tenderloin and oh my God, the crowd was just watching him. It was like people showing up for the warm up before Led Zeppelin plays. You know, you get to be on stage with them. But Doug Dean asked you a question about a recipe for salmon, Roger, before the break. Man, look, let's go. This is the guy that worked for Gordon Ramsay for not 8 days, but 8 years.
Yeah. It felt like 8 centuries, but so salmon, I got Rob, one of my favorite dishes is the beef Wellington. I think I've done that for you a few times.
Oh yeah.
That is Gordon's signature dish that he stands by, and I learned it there, and I had a few of them thrown at my face. But with the beef tenderloin, I like to switch it up and do the salmon Wellington. That's probably good for a tailgate because you can pre-cook it a little bit before you even get down to the tailgate, and then there's less work when you get there. And I mean, there's a lot of prep involved in it, and you have to get every part of the preparation right, or it's just not good. And I've seen a lot of not good beef Wellingtons in this country. But salmon Wellington, I can put the recipe up for that. I do a little bit of cream spinach with some white wine in there. I put the whole salmon fillet in there, and then I do like a savory crepe pancake around it to keep the moisture in, and then wrap it in puff pastry and bake it. And it's like a beautiful salmon pastry.
We are not worthy.
And you're right, Chef. Wellington is a risk-reward dish. If you pull it off, you are the hero. It's like coming out with the crown roast on Christmas Day. If it comes off and it's succulent, you're the hero. If it comes off bad, your relatives.
Yeah,
restaurant is the Chinese restaurant.
Hey, Roger, you've done something amazing. What you do with your chicken nuggets? I've never had chicken nuggets, and I love chicken nuggets. But talk about what you do, and also with catfish. My God, y'all, the eating catfish, it's orgasmic. It's so good.
So I do catfish now every Friday for my boss up here in Indianapolis. He can't believe that an Englishman can do better fried catfish than down in the South. But the chicken nuggets is I actually kind of take a leaf out of Chick-fil-A's book on that one. I do the half milk, half pickle juice, marinate it.
Oh yeah.
It's fantastic. It keeps the moisture in there, and the flavor's amazing. And then I do a breading of about 12 or 13 different herbs and spices and flour. And it's pretty similar to Chick-fil-A nuggets, I think is what it is. And then I kind of copy their sauce, do a couple of different things to it. But that was always popular up in Memphis.
That brine tenderizes it too. That's a good approach.
Yeah, it does. You can do the same thing with the catfish as well on that one. Yeah.
So that's what makes the catfish when you do them. Yeah.
Hey, Chef, I was going to tell you, for your cream spinach, I don't know if you've ever gotten a chance to get down to Galatoire's, the restaurant right on Bourbon in New Orleans. It's one of my favorite restaurants. If you've ever get a chance, go for a Friday lunch. It's like your typical, 2 or 3 hour Parisian lunch right there in the heart of the French Quarter. But they have their anise spinach topping for the oysters Rockefeller, which is fabulous. And I'm telling you, if you love a cream spinach, I actually did. And again, they have a secret recipe that goes back 150 years. So I don't profess to know their recipe, but I've monkeyed around with it. But I've done the anise spinach that is their topping dish, which, by the way, I just get the chafing dish. I don't even get it with the oysters. It's so good. I get it as a side dish. But I've done that with a cream spinach. Whoo, you talk about so good. And then offset that sweetness of the anise with a little bit of a little cayenne pepper in it. It's fabulous. Try that if you ever get a chance.
Chef, can I ask? I want to ask a amateur foodie's question about wine. I understand. I think we all get it that there is something to proverbial pairing of a wine with a dish. But is that overdone? Is there an implied precision to pairing a wine with a particular table fare that's overdone, or what are your thoughts on that?
I think there is somewhat, but I do think it is overdone quite a lot, especially on the tasting dinners where you have 10 courses with 10 matching wines, and people end up mixing it around anyway. You pick up the wine from the first course, and so I think it is overdone, but there is, if you're ordering a steak and you want a nice red wine with it, obviously that's like common sense, but I think it is overdone a little bit.
Thank you.
Roger, another thing too, I've got several questions coming up now. Doug made a tenderloin that was just unbelievable at the lake last October, but we love tenderloin, a beef tenderloin. Roger, give a recipe for a beef tenderloin for a summer backyard cookout that will blow people away, because guys, honestly, I've tried so much of Roger's food over the years. I got to be a tester. I feel like, not for the late Kim Jong-un, the now dead dictator of North Korea. He has about 10 food testers. Roger would say, Rob, I want you to come down and try this. And by the way, just to give Roger more credibility, as a young lad growing up in Manchester, England, his father is the top Mercedes salesman in the UK. The guy could sell ketchup popsicles to a lady in white gloves. He's incredible. Great family that he's got. But he's an American citizen now. He loves his country, but he's all in on America. He grew up on Saturday mornings. You know what he watched? Wrestling. But Roger, let's talk about a great tenderloin recipe, because I've tried so much food from you, and every time I eat it, I go, I did not know that. I never knew it could be that good.
Well, I'll give you a couple, because there's one I've been doing lately particularly with Wagyu beef, but you can do it with any beef. I do this little marinade of soy sauce with a chopped up raw white onion, chopped up green onions. I put a little bit of rice vinegar and mirin, rice wine, and then marinate the Wagyu in there for about a day. It pulls out all the sweetness to the surface, and then when I grill it, it gives it such a beautiful crust, and there's so much depth to the flavor when I do that. I've been playing around with that for a couple of months. So I can give you the recipe for that one. And then in the summer, I'd probably just char grill out in the yard and make a nice simple chimichurri and put it on top of it. Something clean and fresh. Both of which I can put up on the Sidelines website.
Oh, Roger, let me tell you something. I've got another one of my friends, Tate Davis, listening down in Auburn. He lives in Charlotte. That's where Wilson lives now. And but he's saying, how do I follow Chef Roger on Instagram or Facebook, whatever? You're all over the place, but I'm going to tell y'all something. Chef Roger is cool as hell, loves college football, knows his Man United soccer. But yeah, people want to follow you, Roger. We'll let you go here in a minute. I know it's your day off, or do you ever take a day off? But you're probably going to the market to get fresh stuff every day. But let them know how they can follow you. And we'll get you back on again next week. Get the video link so maybe you can do it live from the kitchen up there in Indianapolis.
Yeah, I'm on Instagram. It's at Chef Roger Watson. That's Roger, not the Americanized bastardized version with D in there. It's Roger. ChefRogerWatson.com.
Hey, and Chef, Chef, I'm going to be having Doug and Rob and Maury Gaston and a lot of the guys that actually follow the show. They're coming in for the LSU Auburn game to Baton Rouge, and I'm going to have my RV Bengal One up there, and I'm going to be cooking up my seafood gumbo, and we're going to do it up big. So you're more than welcome to come down and enjoy it with us if you'd like.
Please.
Would love to, yeah.
Hey, well, then we get Roger. We're going to make that happen, and I'm going to let you go. I'm going to get you the date and everything like that. Logistically, that will be guys. What Roger's great at doing is holding court and explaining what he's doing it when he's doing it. But and Roger, tell me the story again. The late Prince Philip was so not incompetent, but just had so many people. He didn't know how to use a can opener. Y'all used to take food to Buckingham Palace late at night from Restaurant Ramsay. What was that story?
Well, I worked with a couple of guys from the palace, and I'd done a couple of dinner parties. He really didn't like the fancy stuff. He would come down at 3 o'clock in the morning and have somebody open a can of beans for him and just eat them cold. He really wasn't that fussy.
But I heard he was definitely a man's man. He was a man's man.
Chef,
He
what did
definitely
you
is.
for Vienna sausages, Chef?
Those things are illegal, aren't they, Roger? Roger, look, man, I'll talk to you later today. Looking forward to getting you back on next week. And thank you for taking time out of your Saturday morning to check in with us. And thanks for listening. And got to say, hotty toddy from my man,
Absolutely.
Chef Roger from Manchester, UK. That's right.
Hotty toddy.
All right.
Go Ole Miss.
Take care.
All right.
Rob,
All right.
Thanks,
Go Rebels.
Rob, that segment was way more important than football and recruiting.
Well, guys, I'm going to tell you, and Buddy Martin's on with us now. Chef Roger, I've known him for 8 years. Like I said, he worked for my friend for 4 years. That's where I met Audrey because she was working for them too. And I mean, guys, I'm not exaggerating when I talk about what he can do in the kitchen. And it's another level. And he said, he was 17 years old. He moved from Manchester to London. He had $50 to his name. He told his parents, he goes, I don't want any help. I want to make it. He got a job in this restaurant working for this guy for a month. And he didn't know who Gordon Ramsay was. He had no idea who he was. The first month, he goes, it was great. I worked for him for 8 more years. And he said at the end of every night, Gordon Ramsay would line up the staff. And he'd go, Buddy, how is everybody? Blah, blah, blah. Frank, how is everybody? Doug, he knew everything about you, everybody in your family. And when he left after 8 years, Roger came to America. He worked in Houston. And he said, Gordon Ramsay said, just promise me you'll do 2 things. You'll never, ever put anything on the table that's not perfect. And you'll always let them know that you learned from a man named Gordon Ramsay. So the first job Roger gets, he's doing a wedding in Houston. And during the night, and it's crazy in that kitchen, here comes George and Laura Bush in there to say, that's the best meal I've ever had. He goes, he goes, I speak English, but I don't speak Texan. But he became an American citizen, and he took that test. He is so proud to be an American. He loves this country. He loves the UK. Don't get me wrong. But he loves the United States of America. He is wrapped in the flag, and he always shakes his head when he hears people say anything bad about America. He goes, you people don't realize this is the country that everyone in the world will give their last drop of blood to get to. So thank y'all for participating.
Rob,
Let's go.
Clear the studio. The godfather of Gator football is here, Buddy Martin.
That's right.
Hey, we were talking Gators. We were talking Gators early, buddy. We were talking Gators.
Morning, buddy.
Well, you're talking bad about them. That's what I want to know, because I'm tired of people talking bad about them.
No, I said y'all are gonna be the surprise of the East.
Good, because I got sick and tired of it, and I finally went on a rant and said, okay, I'll put the clown suit on. I'm picking them to go 8-4. Since when did they become Vanderbilt, for crying out loud?
Yeah.
So I'm pretty angry about that. I'm glad you guys are seeing the light here. I don't mean to get my pom-poms out and all that kind of stuff, but I'm just sick and tired of people just finding a reason to hate on the Gators. Come on, man.
Buddy, we're in an entitled culture. Almost all of our fan bases, you're entitled just because you buy season tickets to an undefeated season, and you got to go out and play the games. But as I said to Frank and Rob, I want strategically Auburn, anybody that's in Auburn or Tennessee, most of these programs, we need Florida to play serious football again so that Georgia's path
counterbalance
not so unfettered every damn year.
Well, not everybody's as balanced as you and Frank are on this. I'm not here to say Florida's going to beat Georgia, but I'm pretty ticked off at my brothers and sisters who were in Nashville with the poll they took, had Florida sniffing the butts of South Carolina and everybody else. I mean, I don't know, does the word respect even exist anymore? Last time I looked, the SEC East, Florida had a pretty good penthouse in it at one time. Sure, Georgia, I give Georgia all the credit in the world. They'll probably win another national championship. But come on, folks. You're picking them to win 5 games? I mean, you're not doing the homework on this thing. Never mind hating on the Gators.
They weren't real thrilled with Auburn either. Had Auburn down.
No, I know. I heard. And by the way, I think Auburn, the schedule for Auburn's murder is just awful. I looked at it yesterday. But I give Florida, I give them a fighting chance. They're going to knock off somebody. Hugh Freeze is going to beat somebody or more than the one that he isn't supposed to beat. Have you not seen the man's coaching record, for crying out loud? So, I mean, all these, what do they say about experts that live out of town and carry a briefcase or whatever? I got 10 followers on Twitter. So all of a sudden these people are giving opinions like they invented football. Come on, man. I mean, like I said in my column, I don't know, you've been to a few rodeos. I've ridden in them, okay? I've been around a few years. By osmosis, after 65 years of being around Florida, I may be old, but I ain't stupid, okay? Just by osmosis. So I can tell you this Florida football team is not going to be that bad if you stop hating on them.
Amen.
Yeah,
Buddy,
I agree with you, buddy. I think they're the surprise. I do, just like last year. Remember, we talked about it last year. Everybody was, railing on Napier, and I said, "You watch. They're going to give Utah hell in that first game," and they did. They won the ball game. And look, but here's the thing: Anthony Richardson was a double-edged sword. He was. He has incredible talent. Okay, and then but then he would frustrate you. I watched that Florida State game. I was frustrated. What do you see as the post Anthony Richardson program now? Where do you see Florida coming out of that? And what are going to be the benefits and the drawbacks of not having 15 out there?
All right, now Frank.
Yeah, hold that thought. Hold that thought. We're going to take a quick break.
Come back, I'll answer it. Okay.
Yeah, we're going to take a quick break. We got to. This is great stuff. And Doug, Frank, Buddy, love this conversation. We're going to be right back. Sidelines Saturday Roundtable after this.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
Hey, Rob Browne back with this great round table. Buddy Martin, one of the top sports writers ever to write sports down in Ocala, Florida, not Gainesville. Frank Duffy in the mountains of North Georgia and Jasper. Doug Dean, Birmingham, the Magic City. And I tell you what, guys, I'm going to get these recipes from Chef Roger, and we can post them on the website. And Audrey's got his Instagram. You can follow him. But I talk to Roger and text him every day, and I've just never, these recipes, they work. They're for real. But Doug, buddy, Doug, I know you've got a few minutes left, but jump back in here with.
Well, first of all, man, it's so great to have Buddy on it. When I hear Buddy's voice, there's certain voices. I have a little singing talent lately. It's just at church on Sunday morning, but so I have an appreciation for a voice. And Buddy's, when that real man's voice comes on, I know that we're talking serious college football. And I just wanted to put the provocative question, the second one of the day, on the table. And I have a feeling that all four of us will vote the same way on this. Would you take, as we sit, and I'm not trying to stir the masses of great dog fans in Athens and other parts of Georgia, would you take Georgia or the entire field as we head into this season? Georgia is going up against history. It is hard as hell to three-peat. Their schedule tempts you to say, well, what could possibly go wrong? No one's going to beat Georgia. And they may not regular season. But I'm sorry, I don't particularly, it's not that I dislike, much less hate, any particular fan base. Georgia's, God knows, they're on top of the world right now. But I'm going to take the field, and it's only because I think history is a powerful thing to swim against. And there's some other programs that are getting sneaky good. And I'm not just referring to Alabama, but how would you guys line up on that particular Georgia versus the field?
Field.
Buddy?
I'm going to take Georgia, but that doesn't mean that's the end of the world. Look, Georgia doesn't own a monopoly on national championships. You know how hard it is to win a national championship once, twice, three times? You know, you're right. The odds are really difficult, but here's the thing about Georgia. They got the easiest schedules as little sisters of the poor. I mean, really, they can walk in. They can throw their helmets on the field and win 10, 12 games, 11 games.
Atlanta.
Yeah, I know. Then we'll see about what happens in the West, because I don't know yet about how good LSU really is. Looks like they're getting all the run. Don't count Nick Saban out. I'm sorry, I can't count him out. And things happen. Look here. Can I just take 1 second here, if I can?
Yeah.
I had a chance to talk with Urban Meyer, and we're doing a show with him every Friday now called Best Fridays in Football, about what happened to him at Florida. Do you realize he had won 2 national championships in 3 years and was playing Saban again for a national championship and looked like they had a good chance? And what happened to him? Among other things, he ran into a buzzsaw and a pissed off Nick Saban. But before that, during the week prior to the game, one of their best defensive players who never drank in his life went to a birthday party, had some cold beverages, got in his car and drove up to a stoplight in Gainesville and fell asleep and got arrested and kicked off the team. And then it all started going downhill. And when they got to Georgia, because what they did to them the year before, they ran it down Alabama's throat the year before. Nick was ready for him, and they could not. But, think about what if he had to win that game? We'd be talking about Urban Meyer's dynasty now, right? With 3 out of 4 years.
Y'all had a shot to win in 2007 when we beat on Tiger Stadium. If Florida that ball,
no doubt about it. No doubt about it. So just to wrap that part up, because of those numbers, I got to go with Georgia. But I got to say, see this picture right here? Can you see what that is? What is that? You see it?
That's hard to see.
It's a clown. Okay. and my column I put on, I said, go ahead, send in the clown starting with me, because I'm going to go say that Florida's going to win 8 games. I did an auction on my show last week with 2 other writers and people like, okay, let's take the point. Let's take the number of wins. Start at 5.5. Who wants 6? Who wants 6 out? Who wants 7? We stopped at 7. Somebody went to 7.5. Guess who it was? Me. Okay. Yeah. So I can tell you real quick in a nutshell why. This is a different football team in Florida. If you tell me, just real quick, you guys tell me what you think is wrong with Florida's team this year. Anybody, go ahead. Tell me what's their problem. What's the unknown? What's the big questions? Go ahead. Say what it is. Quarterback, right?
Yeah.
Graham Mertz, right? Defense, right? All that stuff. Well, let me just tell you, I'm a reporter, okay? I don't take someone's word for something. I go seek my own information. So I asked the guy who recruited Graham Mertz what he thought about him. Urban Meyer wanted to make him a Buckeye, right? Nick Saban wanted to make him a Crimson Tide. And I said to Urban, what's up with Graham Mertz? Why are people not respecting him? He says, I don't know, because I know the kid. I recruited the kid. He's a really good player. He's smart. And he said, I don't know why they're. He said, I talked to Paul Chris, who was his coach, and I asked him what happened to Graham Mertz. He said, the cast around him wasn't that good. Okay. Has anybody ever said that about Graham Mertz? No. They just say, well, he's not a very good passer and his numbers are bad in Wisconsin, and this is the kind of the half-baked ideas that people get about players. And the final thing is he doesn't have to win games. He's just got to be able to manage the team. I just talked to one of his teammates last week, one of the offensive linemen, said he's really smart. Really smart. He can lead. And look, what's Florida going to do? Run the football. What did we say last week? Run the football. Control the clock, which, by the way, is now shortened. You own the clock. You own the game.
Yeah, good point.
You got 3 running backs, okay? And they got a new defensive coordinator who I really like, a young firebrand who was at Southern Miss and worked for Nick for a few minutes. And then they've got Corey Raymond, the architect, Frank, of the DBU at LSU. He's now coaching the whole secondary. So, excuse me, I'll put on the clown suit. I'm going 8-4.
You're not a clown, buddy. And, we're going historical so that we don't have to go hysterical. And you want to talk about weird things can happen. Only an Auburn fan would have to endure in 2017 destroying Georgia and Alabama in the month of November, only to get waxed by Georgia with Carry-On out, and only to have to watch those same 2 teams play for the national championship. That's a special kind of pain, isn't it, Duff?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I mean, think about it. Since 2010, Auburn won the national championship. 2013, they lost it in the last few seconds. 2017, they're number 2 in the college football playoff rankings, going into the rematch with Georgia. Jump on top 7-0, going down to make it 14-0. Jarrett Stidham gets hit. Georgia recovers at the 16, goes 84 yards. It's 13-7 in the fourth quarter. Auburn's moving the ball, and they fumble when, Carry-On can barely hold the ball. And Georgia, DeAndre Swift out of St. Joseph High School up there, Metro Philadelphia, goes 75 yards. They win 28-7. The next day, Auburn does the dreaded 749/32. 7 years, $49 million for Gus with a $32 million buyout. Stupid is as stupid does. Guys, hey, I want you to talk to my friend Eddie Murphy for just a few minutes. I'm going to bring him in. His father ran track at Tennessee, won the mile 3 years in a row. Close friends with Johnny Majors up in Knoxville. And track and field, buddy. And Eddie has started, this is the 7th year of the EdMurphyClassic.com in Memphis. And hey, we got Doug Dean on here in Birmingham, Frank Duffy up in North Atlanta, Mr. LSU Tiger, and Buddy Martin. Eddie, just to give you a little background, one of the absolute greatest sports writers. And I'm with Doug Dean. He has one of those voices that when he's on, you're taking notes. It's like, Socrates is waxing eloquently, but he knows track and field. He knows Mike Holloway, what's going on. He and Franz Beard down in Gainesville, but he's a former sports editor of the New York Daily News, the Denver Post. He trained Rick Riley, one of the top writers in the country, St. Petersburg Times. He's back in Ocala. He is one of the best people we have on this show, and he is why this show keeps growing. But Eddie, say hello to everybody, and let's talk a few minutes. Track and field. I'm fired up. It starts Friday.
Yes, sir. Hey, thanks for the opportunity again. Appreciate it, Rob. It's amazing. Always good to be with you guys. And I'll tell you one thing. I was last week when we were on, and I was listening to Buddy. It's mesmerizing. It was like I was sitting there. I wanted to be at a bar with about 4 or 5 Budweisers in me and just listen to those guys talk. Just amazing. So much fun.
It is. It really is.
You were talking about Dad being buddies with Johnny Majors, and it just made me think of a great story. So Tennessee was 0-5, and they came to play Memphis State here, and so Majors gets off the plane, and they left his clothes. So he calls Murph. He goes, Murph, those Brooks Brothers gray slacks? I need to borrow a pair. And Dad's like, why? And he goes, well, they left my damn clothes. Maybe there's no wonder we're 0-5. Shit like that. And so they win. Okay, and Dad goes, "Hey, Mage, give me the pants back." He goes, "No way, they're my good luck charm." They went 6-5 that year, and you wear them every game.
I love that.
Isn't that great?
That's awesome. I love it. The Brooks Brothers gray slacks.
The Brooks Brothers gray slacks. That's what he wore all the time if he wasn't running or doing something else. But he always had a Budweiser in his hand whenever he's having fun. That's for sure.
New meaning to the phrase, the emperor has no clothes.
That's right. Eddie, tell people real quick, and I know, we've got we're talking football, sports, we're talking food with Chef Roger, but tell people how big this track and field complex is. And buddy, at Florida, Mike Holloway, 13 national championships.
What a couple.
But I love this sport, and this is going to be an incredible event.
It is going to be incredible. We're up to 440 professional athletes. We've got over 90 Olympians that are committing to running this race right now. They're from like 41 different countries. We just had some kids from China, which is a first for us, that are coming in.
Wow.
And it's just amazing from an opportunity standpoint. This is year 7 for us. And I was just sitting here, and Max just sent me, Max Paquette's our executive director of the meet director, and he's playing in a hockey tournament this morning here in Memphis, but he's a Canadian, and he just sent me something, and he'll be drinking some beers afterwards too, but he just sent me, and I sent it to you, Rob. Our 100-meter hurdles women have the number 1, 2, 5, 6, and 7 in the world racing.
Wow.
This thing is just totally taken off. I think what we've done is, guys, we've tried to grow this thing really slowly, organically, and just have a great opportunity for athletes to come in and have a comfortable place to run and to feel really good about it and provide a great atmosphere. And it seems to be taking off. It's building one by one. They love our story of the give back. We're the only race in the United States that's a nonprofit. We don't make any money. It all goes to build up a professional track meet. And then the rest goes to a 501c3 that we started called the Murphy Track Club. And we started that about 7 months ago. And we're providing free track and field in 2 areas of Memphis of need. And we started at Raleigh Egypt High School, which is in North Memphis. And then we're at Southwind, which is in South Memphis. And we got 152 kids running. Our last track practice, we're doing it 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, and Thursdays from 5:30 to 7:15. And we've got our last practice on Tuesday of next week, and all the runners will run at the Murphy Track Classic, because we got a youth portion of this as well, where we got 8 or 9 different events for elementary, middle, and high school kids doing shot put, long jump, 100 meter, 200, 400. And then to get ready for cross country season for the high schools, we do a 5x1K where all the high school teams can come in and do a relay around Rhodes College, which is absolutely a beautiful setting. I mean, you couldn't a setting for a track meet in Memphis. Since day one, when I learned that we were going to do this again, and this is where I thought it needed to be and knew it needed to be to, put Memphis's best foot forward and show a great image to track and field around the world. And we've gotten exposed from what we've done over the last couple of years, met some great people. John Nubani is one of the great, agents in the United States. Ronaldo Nehemiah's become a friend of mine. He's Shakari Richardson. Skeets, right? What a good dude. And they invited us to go to Zurich last year for the World Championships finals, and got to go into some meetings and learn. And then as we've kind of grown, I've met some other people when Casey Lightfoot up in Nashville about a month ago broke the American record out of nowhere. I mean, there was 25, there was probably 40 fans standing around. The sun, it was wasn't in the greatest spot. The sun was setting in the background. You couldn't really see. And the sunlight was going, and the sun was going down. And Casey Lightfoot, you just see him gaining momentum. And he did the 4th highest jump ever in the history of mankind right there in front of us. It was amazing. Yeah. And he's coming. And then the guy's record he broke, Chris Nielsen, American record holder, he's coming. Then we got Sam Kendricks, who's a medalist. And it's kind of a crazy story what happened to him in 2021 in COVID in Tokyo. He had won a medal in the previous in Rio, and he goes to Tokyo, and he gets a false positive COVID, and they put him in a room, and they wouldn't let him out. And it was just, they were trying to call the military to get him out of there. He was locked up, and they wouldn't let him out. It was crazy. But it's going to be amazing. Sandy Morris, who's an Olympian, she's coming to compete on Beale Street. So we're just, we're star-studded. And I
love it. Hey, buddy, last year they did the pole vault on Beale Street, and it's a cool story. But buddy, you've covered Olympics. You've covered everything. This could be one of the biggest events in the country and around the world. I think it's great, buddy.
Yeah, I mean, I covered it back before when it was just track and not track and field, so they had that on there. Uh, the yeah, the Florida relays have always been a big event. I haven't been to track meet in a while, but boy, the Florida athletes have been fantastic, and their 4x4 team is incredible.
Incredible.
Mouse Holloway's story is wonderful. I love his story. He told he's won so many championships now, and don't forget last year he won both men's and women's outdoor, and he's almost won it this year. And he talked about his mother who died several years ago. And Mouse was complaining because he didn't win first a couple of years back. And she said, listen, stop complaining. If you want to do better, coach better, and put him in his place. And said, be proud of those kids who won second place. All right. So he said that was something for him to consider. And if you want to put a statue up of somebody in Florida, and they got a lot of statues, they're great players. Mouse Holloway's statue needs to be right there at that track and field place. A phenomenal coach. Yeah. You could make a case for him being the best coach in Florida history of anything, if you want to go that. So anyway,
that's track and field.
Yeah, congratulations, by the way, for what you guys are doing. I wish you all the best. And at a time where
hold that thought, buddy. We're going to take a quick break. I want to come back and keep going.
Rob, I'm out of here.
2 seconds.
Yeah. Okay, Doug, we'll see you Monday.
Athletes are more worldwide famous than they are local.
No question. We'll be right back with more Sidelines Roundtable after this. Yeah. And, here's the thing right now, Eddie, and we're going to have just that we lost. Here we go. There's Frank. And then, buddy, hopefully weird stuff going on the internet. And by the way, I've got those recipes that Chef Roger put out there, the chimichurri. Just sent it to you, Frank and Maury and Doug. Wow, that looks good. But hopefully Buddy's going to come back. He got taken away by aliens or whatever. But, Frank, you know what track and field means at LSU. I mean, they have won so damn many national championships. This event in Memphis is ginormous. And I think Eddie's right. And Buddy said, when I've traveled around the world, track and field people that I've known have said, I'm more recognized around the world than I am in my own country. And that's got to change. And Eddie, you are going to make that happen.
Well, I will tell you right now, I'd buy a ticket to watch Mondo Duplantis pole vault over to Rendezvous. I'd do that.
Damn, I love that.
And by the way, I'm sure you've got quite a few participants from my college, from LSU, especially you were talking about the women hurdles. I mean, we've got just some great talent, and a lot of these young people. Like Mondo. I mean, just what a class young man. It's all these young people who are training right now for the Olympics. To have the ability to come and put their talents on show at such a really cool venue, and like you said, being able to have cross country around Rhodes College. I mean, what a pretty view that must be. For the long runners to head around that incredible campus, that it sounds like it's going to be a great event for you guys. And you said it's the 7th or 8th year that you've been doing it. Is that correct?
Yeah, this is year 7.
Wow, and, that's incredible.
So it's kind of come out of nowhere. The first year was just we brought in some guys. I was kind of invited to this party. It wasn't like I came up with this idea. Some friends of Dad's, Mike Cody, who worked Birch Porter and Johnson. Really great guy, gave some time to become a politician and did some great things. And he asked me if I wanted to come have lunch one day to see if he could, he wanted to honor my dad in a certain way. And nobody had ever broken the 4-minute mile in Memphis. And he goes, you help us raise a little bit of money. We'll bring a couple of Olympians in and break the 4-minute mile. And
cool.
We did it 7 years ago and about 2000 around a Hoka meet. about 2,000 kids, had a ball. It was unbelievable experience just to watch that. And then I had the probably the opportunity of a lifetime that I didn't know was the next morning I ran into them at the airport, and they were, "Hey, Mr. Murphy, we're going to Ireland, then we're going to go to Zurich, and we're going to Brussels and all over the place, Paris, to run in these Diamond League races." And they said, "Would you put on a race in America, because there's so few races for us to run?" And I was like, what are you talking about? And not only were we paying them $600 to come run in a race and win, they're Olympians. I was like, this is ridiculous. So now we're up to $3,000 first place, and we're paying these people, and now we're providing, their hotels, their airfare, transportation back and forth. We're just basically learning from the best, from of course in America, and the Nest over there with what they're doing at Eugene, Tracktown, USA. You can learn from these people and just apply that stuff and, copy and paste, and maybe put your little swag to it, our Southern swag to it. And, one thing I'm finding, to me, Frank, is that when I was in Zurich or wherever I've been, you almost have a fraternity or a sorority of all the SEC powerhouses that are here, and for, I'm a Tennessee guy, Rob's Auburn, you're LSU, buddies, Florida. This is what's cool about it, just bringing them here in competition. Buddy, I'm glad you're back on, because I was going to brag on you down there, the Florida Gators. So we got Anna Hall coming, and she's going to create her own pentathlon here, pentathlon. She's going to run 3 or 4 races here just to create her own stuff. But there's a race in Florida that finished 26th in the world in Gainesville. It nipped us right at the end of the year, because we were trying to be top 25 was our goal. So Florida got me.
Well, they do. They get a lot of people. Don't feel bad. They get a lot of people. But congratulations on your event. I know it's going to be great.
Well, thank you very much.
You don't get a lot of run on track and field much anymore in the average everyday sports pages. In fact, you don't get much run on anything. But keep up the good work. And it's there's a long tradition of it in the SEC and starting at Florida. Glad to see these events popping up like this.
But Arkansas track's been doing. I mean, there's some incredible talent.
And Eddie, one more thing before you go. You said something the other day that really resonated with me, and I think the listeners and the viewers need to hear this. You said these athletes that are wrapped up in the red, white, and blue, a lot of them are going way beyond the call of duty just to represent their country. That's a cool story. Tell them real quick, and then I will let you go.
No problem. It's amazing to me is like the second year we had this race, and the third year we've got all these athletes that are pushing our guys and girls that are, wearing the red, white, and blue, and they're having to work 2 jobs. And just because they can't afford it, because think about it. If you're number 50 in the world, but you're out there, you have a great day and you're pushing these guys, they don't have the money. If you don't, the endorsements from Nike, endorsements from Puma, we're with Puma. It's just amazing. But the give back for the scroll down is that, most of these kids, a lot of our kids at LSU or Florida, that where they come from, become world-class athletes, come from the same areas that we're trying to improve in Memphis. And not only can we, if it works here, just like we're learning from other places, it could work in Birmingham. It could work in, Lafayette, Louisiana, whatever. We can figure that out as to
Atlanta.
We're bringing back track. Instead of this Murphy Track Club, instead of going to some beautiful venue, we're taking it to them. We're going back to an area of the city where the ecosystem may be just gutted a little bit, and it's been maybe under, we're going to build it up that way. And now we've got to build the coaches up. We got to build the facilities up. But it's not that expensive when you look at it compared to other things. And it's hard.
Yeah. Eddie, do me a favor. Let people know how they can follow you, get tickets, and we'll have you on again later during the week as we get closer to the event. And I'm looking forward to the party Thursday night. And again, thanks for joining us. Appreciate your time on here.
I sure will. I think our marketing department's going crazy right now with our Instagram at Murphy Classic, and that's MURPHEY. I mean, all these athletes that are looking forward to coming here. They're giving Sandy Morse, giving posts. Different people talk about what it means for them for actually have a track meet in America that's providing an opportunity for them not to have to travel all around the world. And then obviously August 4th at Rhodes College, we're going to have Olympians starting at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, but we're not on Peacock until 7:15. We'll probably run races till 10:30. it's going to be all day. We got high school races, elementary races, and then we pop it over to Beale Street on that Saturday the 5th. And we started the Murphy Mile down there. So we're going to have a community race where we run around FedEx Forum where the Grizzlies play, run around Beale Street, start and finish there. And then all the kids, all the people that run that are of age get a free drink ticket at Alfred's, come in, and then you can start watching the women pole vaulters, which we got Sandy Morse. We got 5 or 6 of the top pole vaulters in the world there, and then our men star-studded as well. And you can buy tickets to this. Beale Street's free, and you can buy tickets to the on edmurphyclassic.com. It's a $10 ticket. And for all you college kids out there, you can come in and buy a wristband for $65, and it's all you can drink. So that could be I know where I'd be if I was in college.
Yeah, I think we got a winner. All right, Eddie, let's do it again. Let's do it again this week, man. As always, appreciate it. And thank God you're doing what you're doing for track and field, okay?
And remember, if you do that pole vaulting over rendezvous, that was my idea.
Let's do it. I love it.
All right. Take care, Eddie.
You guys. Right. Thanks, Rob.
Appreciate it. Hey, man, I tell you, I love what you just said, Frank. Pole vaulting over the rendezvous. And, buddy, you cover sports, and we don't. You said it before the break, and I didn't mean to have to cut you off, but these guys and gals are more famous around the world, track and field, the swimmers and all, than the football players or baseball players or basketball players even. That's how big it is. And I think we took track and field for granted. We were so dominant for so long. But, man, if you can get to Memphis to that Ed Murphy Classic, that's a destination. That's something you've got to go attend. But, man, I love it. And it makes football better too, buddy.
Yeah, track athletes, obviously. Florida has recruited quite a few track athletes to play football, and they've done a few more this year. And that was one of the highlights of Urban Meyer's teams. They were really fast. And if Percy Harvin would have run, he'd have probably won a gold medal. But anyway, if we can get back to one other thing, if I don't mind, I want to get back to the point I was making about track and field athletes. But also, I want to make an announcement, if I may. If you're not following Ainsley Lee at AL.com, she was on Feinbaum's last week. She's a former intern for me. She's covering Auburn. You're going to love her. She's a terrific reporter. As a matter of fact, Feinbaum mentioned me on the air the other day about the fact that, that I was her boss. I'm so proud of her. And she's a young star in the making. You will see Ainsley. Her reporting and writing is extraordinary. Guaranteed you will not get better coverage on Auburn with Ainsley Lee. So let me make sure you know Ainsley Lee, Marion County girl. She's really good. She came up the hard way, learned everything from the right way. Newspaper intern, newspaper employee, sports writer. Anyway, she's going to cover Auburn. Big move for her, at least leaving here and going up there to the Douglas Village and doing that. So congratulations to Ainsley on that. And also, if I may, just prevail for a second. We're running out of time. We're doing
good.
it.
Keep going.
We're doing a relaunch of the Buddy Martin Show. We're going to actually go over to YouTube and be more ultimately on YouTube. Our brain trust have figured out that Facebook basically algorithms you to death. No matter what you do, they have an algorithm that blocks you, and they shrink your audiences because they only want certain people to see it. So we're going to be all out on YouTube. You'll be hearing it on Feinbaum soon. I'm going to go on and talk about the show. And it'll be a different kind of show. There will be a lot more shows during the week, interviews, a lot more of those. And some things maybe that will be a little crazy to me. But some of these things they do now with YouTube are unbelievable. And YouTube, by the way, monetizes you if you get big enough. Yeah. So I'm going to ask everybody, please go to the Buddy Martin Show on YouTube and sign up. It's free. Subscribe to the Buddy Martin Show on YouTube. You'll be seeing this there regularly, quite often. I'm really proud of the people I'm working with. Brendan, of course, and our buddy Joe, who is Joe Blackburn, who's a genius. He'll be our new CFO. And we got big things planned for the fall. So check us out.
Buddy, I am so glad to hear that because this is interesting. We're on YouTube. And we put it out on a lot of platforms. But, Frank, you watch the Buddy Martin Show. It's a great show. And it's also an incubator, a launching pad for a lot of great careers. They're trained by Buddy and friends, and you look at the people that come out of there, they're journalists. They know how to get it right. And you need to watch that show, folks. We're on in the morning. Buddy's on at night. We need to form a network of shows like ours.
I said that.
True grit journalism.
Well, where's Frank? That was his job.
I'm with you.
I've said that.
Yeah, that's right.
I said it, Frank.
Yeah.
We need you to do it now, okay? You're a man of means.
Yeah.
You know a lot of powerful people. You have connections. Let's put a network together here. We got great people, and we can bring them tomorrow on YouTube, and you can have all day stuff on the YouTube and the SEC. Because let me tell you what's happened to the SEC. I'm not Nostradamus. My yard guy just showed up in the background. Sorry about that. Couldn't get him during the week, and now he's not here on the weekend. So what's happening is that the upper tier of ESPN. Look at what's happened. The people they've let go. They let go Gene Wojciechowski, one of the great storytellers. A guy who used to work for me in Denver.
Exactly.
And he's gone now. David Pollock. I'm not a Bulldog fan, but I really appreciate David Pollock. And on and on. And they hired these expensive jackman kickers to become superstars. And they also are losing their grassroots grasp. They don't got a grip on LSU, Auburn, Florida, what's going on. They don't have a clue. And so they're now becoming muckety mucks, and the people down here are sick of it, okay? So us little guys are taking the baton. We're going to speak to our fans and our readers and our listeners, and we got to stop this. So, Frank, get busy.
You got it, buddy.
Hey, buddy, you couldn't have said it better. But you just nailed it, and you just painted the picture of what is happening. And I like guys on there. I like Marty Smith and Ryan McGee and Roman Harper and Takeo Spikes, and I talked to Ben Watson up there. The SEC network is where the real football guys that can relate to the fans have gone. ESPN.
You don't need game day. You don't need it.
Yeah.
You got it on
SEC
network.
You don't. Yeah, it's those people
more
now.
Entertainment than information.
Well, they're all walking around on eggshells, afraid to offend somebody. Where were they standing up for women's sports? It takes a 22-year-old young lady that we had on this show recently, Riley Gaines, to stand up and fight, and nobody else was in her corner from those networks. Shame on them. Yeah, shame on every damn one of them. Frank, you said it best on the show a long time ago. All I hear from the women's movement about backing Riley Gaines and women's sports is crickets. Shame on them. Buddy, you said it best too. You know what an expert is in today's world? Somebody that comes in from out of town. The hell with the local people that are always there.
But they're always got a briefcase.
Yeah, always got a briefcase. Gene Wojciechowski, what a great journalist. And to hell with him, I guess.
I loved his vignettes. His vignettes were awesome every week.
He's awesome.
Terrific.
He's awesome. I mean, and David Pollock, from College Park up there. I mean, again, I'm not a Georgia grad, but he was damn good.
He's also got heart. He's also got heart, something they don't understand.
Yeah. He's a good man.
Yeah. Why have we allowed this to happen, guys? That's what I want to know.
Well, because we're all working for them. They own us. They own college football. You can't, no control over it anymore. They got the millions. People got their hands out. And now we've allowed it to happen. And if we don't pick up the people, pick up Simpletown and start doing the things we're talking about, it's on us. If we let it happen, it's on us.
Yeah.
Buddy, my wife Audrey just said, Buddy's right, is we're taking football back because the big corporate behemoth, like ESPN Game Day, again, it used to be grassroots, populist movement.
Who needs them anymore?
Yeah.
You don't need Game Day. I like Herb Street, but all the other stuff that comes with it, the way they're treating people and what they're doing, they're interested in buying rights to everything. They want to own everything, and then only have their own personal superstars. And the good, solid working people, they're getting kicked out.
A federation of local coverage beats a network any day.
Frank, get it started. Let's go.
Look, guys, I agree with y'all completely on this. We have got to start looking at the local beat writers, radio, TV guys. I love them. They're the best guests. You know, some of these national people, guys, like, you know, they'll give up, you know, an arm and a leg. Oh, I got this guy coming on. Well, so what? I want the guys. Hey, I watched Roman Harper. I'm going to tell you what kind of guy he is. The other day, I was watching him do an interview with a young reporter from WSFA TV 12 in Montgomery. And the interview was wrapping up. He said, hold on one second. Let me say hello to everybody back in Prattville, Alabama, where I'm from. He said, every coach, every teammate, every pastor, every family member, every friend, all of you, I love you. He goes, everything I am, y'all gave me my first nickname, the Roman Empire. He goes, no matter where I've been, I'm still proud to be from Prattville, Alabama.
That's what
and
it's about.
And I told him, I said, Roman, we need, and Kingsley Igakwan, the Gator, what he said was a shot over the bow that, you know what? I'm a Gator. I'm getting my degree from UF, which is a great university. And he goes, you know, are you here? Are you a Gator? Are you just kind of a transient looking for the next handout? He goes, we're going to save college football, and it's going to be a grassroots populist effort because of Buddy Martin. And Buddy, you have no idea how important you are. You know, you don't realize you're getting better every day with your message because you're a truth broker. Frank,
Certainly
you know what
passionate.
I'm talking about.
Certainly passionate.
Hey, I had a big day today. I finally walked into a room and remembered why I went in there. It was a bathroom, but it was a bathroom, unfortunately. You know, but I did it. So,
buddy,
we
love
you, man. What the best part is, I love to be able to see you smile and chuckle, and so you've been in our thoughts and prayers a lot the last month,
all the time.
So just letting you know.
Thank you.
Every single day, man. I'm absolutely mean that. And real quick before I let Buddy tag out. Most often we see the face of Christ in the least among us, and don't ever miss an opportunity to help the people who've helped you along the way. And we live in the greatest country in the history of the world. Alpha male culture, the freedom of speech, the First Amendment are alive and well and thriving on Sidelines. And we'll be back with a great show Monday. Appreciate everybody listening, all of our sponsors and everybody. Buddy, let them know how they can follow you in the new Buddy Martin show. Frank, Duffy Realty in Atlanta, Tiger Air. This has been an unreal show. Doug Dean, Eddie Murphy. But, Buddy, tag out.
All right, I just want to tell you, watch for the new show. Go to YouTube, sign up, Buddy Martin Show, subscribe. We'll still be on Facebook for a while, but eventually we're leaving. We have lots of great guests lining up, really top-notch guests. It's going to be fun to be more interactive, so watch for us. And, of course, if you want to sign on and read Fans Beard, myself, and others, go to GatorBaitMedia.com and pick out a plan for yourself. And by the way, again, shout out to Ainsley Lee of AL.com. You're going to love him, Auburn. So give her the best and look out for her and read her stuff and tell her you love her because she's great.
Great job, Ainsley. Congratulations. And I got a great slogan for Buddy. Buddy Troop and the Iron Duke.
I love it, man. Like everybody have a great weekend. Yeah. Until then, we are out of here.
Get on that federation, Frank.